To me, owning and wearing a mechanical watch, among other reasons, is a form of self expression. Different watches evoke different feelings of uniqueness, and that transfers over to how I feel as I wear them. And this has as much to do with how a watch looks and feels as it does how it functions. So the idea of an entire genre of watches, Fliegers, that all look very much alike didn't really resonate with me. But even in my narrow mindedness, I could still appreciate the aspects of a Flieger watch that defined its purpose, that is, to be accurate, durable, and effortlessly legible. As I got more interested in German watchmaking, it became obvious to me that I had to get some experience with these watches. I reached out to Laco to ask if I could review theirs, as they are one of the few brands that were originally selected to manufacture Fliegers for the German Air Force during World War II. Another reason is because they also still produce watches that are quite close to their originals. It should come as no surprise that I was automatically drawn to their line of blue Fliegers, and I requested to review the Type A Münster Blaue Stunde from their original series. This watch typically retails at around 1,100 to 1,200 US dollars. While this beautiful blue Flieger is a departure from the original aesthetic, I personally believe it is the perfect bridge for those that appreciate the Flieger design but also want a bit more flair and visual appeal. Laco does offer many options that are much truer to the original design specification, and you can find those on their website. The original Laco Fliegers measured in at an impressive 55 millimeters in diameter and over 20 millimeters in thickness. No, German pilots didn't have unusually large wrists. These watches were typically worn over their pilot jackets. Given that they were powered by pocket watch movements at the time, some of the pocket watch design cues carried over to these watches as well. The Munster still echoes these design attributes with its 42mm diameter case, 50mm lug-to-lug width, and its hockey puck-like case shape. The top of the case is slightly beveled and smooth to the touch. The entire case is sandblasted, giving it a beautiful texture that is smooth but not shiny. Just like the original, the case has FL23883 engraved on the left flank. The lugs are narrow, thin, and extend straight out of the case, just as they did on the original Fliegers. This is one of the aspects of the case that I was initially worried about, since I typically prefer to wear watches that have curved lugs that angle to wrap around the wrist. My worries were only with respect to comfort, because in terms of appearance, I love these lugs. This one design aspect makes this watch even more convincing as one that continues the Flieger heritage. To be able to operate these watches with gloves on, they had oversized crowns that were easy to grip. Similarly, the Munster's crown is very easy to grip and operate, and comes in at roughly 7.75 millimeters in diameter. This could be considered oversized given that the case is only 12.8 millimeters tall, but to me it feels perfectly proportioned. The crown action is excellent, stable, with no crown or stem wobble. The crystal is very impressive, and just by looking at it you can tell that they've used excellent quality materials. There is little to no distortion, and the viewing angles are excellent, just as you would expect from a pilot's watch. There is adequate anti-reflective coating on the watch, but you can also pay extra to have more layers added. Overall, I think the choice of crystal here is excellent, and it often feels like there's no crystal at all. The caseback is a simple, solid snap-on caseback with details of the watch engraved onto it, such as the movement, the manufacturer, and its purpose. To my knowledge, these inscriptions were originally found on the inside of the caseback. Both the caseback and crown do not screw down, and the watch is only rated for 50 meters of water resistance, which according to Laco's watch manual suggests only exposure to water splashes and bathing. The quality and finishing of the case is excellent. I'm very impressed with the case, and I don't believe pictures do this justice, as it often ends up looking very boring or unassuming in photographs and videos. But their sandblasted finishing is really very good. The Munster is a Flieger Type A dial with hour numerals from 1 to 11. I prefer this dial type for the blue option as the color comes through more easily thanks to the empty space. In keeping with the spirit of the original World War II Fliegers, the dial lacks any branding or text. The only notable design element is the triangle that replaces the 12 o'clock hour marker. This triangle, along with the two dots, was introduced to help the pilot quickly discern the orientation of the watch and provides a reference or pivot for reading the dial in general. Every painted element on the dial is also lumed with C3 superluminova. The base of the dial is a stunning execution of blue. The semi-matte surface isn't free of reflective shimmer like the original watches were designed to be, but this was obviously done intentionally to let the blue color come through, and I wholeheartedly welcome it. The choice of color and finish is perfect. I'm a self-proclaimed connoisseur of blue dials, and this dial is definitely in my top 1%. It's not too vibrant or loud, but it's not disappointingly dark either. It manages to hold its color under low light and gets incrementally more visible under direct sunlight. The hour and minute hands are typical sword style hands. They are thermally blued and finished very well. The hands are generously filled with C3 superluminova, and both the minute and seconds hand extend right up to the edge of the dial, which makes timekeeping very easy. The seconds hand is a simple white rectangular hand with a matte black counterweight. Overall, the finishing on the dial is exceptional. I couldn't find any dust or dirt on the dial. The painting and loom application is very good, and the hands appear to be very well finished too. As I mentioned above, every dial element is loomed except for the outer dial ring. The hands are well loomed, but the seconds hand is particularly impressive. Instead of applying loom to only the tip of the seconds hand, the entire hand is loomed, and this looks amazing. I love watching this hand at night, and when in motion it reminds me of a lightsaber. And in terms of movement, this watch uses an ETA 2824 Elaborate grade movement, but can also be upgraded to the top grade variant for another $150. I logged the accuracy of this watch over a 4-day period and observed roughly plus 2.2 seconds per day, with impressive bounds on variants, so no complaints here whatsoever. The 42mm case diameter and 50mm lug-to-lug width are on the larger side of what I would typically wear given my modest 6¼ inch wrist. But given that Flieger watches are meant to be large, I decided to give this a shot. I also recently reviewed the Limes Endurance GMT, which had similar lug-to-lug dimensions but wore very nicely. The 12.8mm case height is comfortable and sits pretty low on the wrist. I think the dimensions are perfect if you're after that slightly oversized Flieger watch aesthetic, and I think I'm into it. The perceived large size has more to do with the size of the dial rather than the case. The 42mm case is almost all dial, so this does make it appear like a larger watch than it actually is. Initially, having the lugs 3 to 5mm above my wrist felt strange, but I quickly got used to it. The straight lugs don't really have a negative effect on comfort as I initially expected, but they do add a lot of vintage charm to the watch. In terms of wrist experience, I think the original series does an excellent job at trying to cater to all the different wrist sizes and preferences that people might have. So they offer watches that are 39mm in diameter all the way up to 55mm. But with the blue dial option, there are only 42mm versions available. And I wouldn't recommend this watch for wrist sizes under 6 inches as the lugs will start to extend out of your wrist, assuming a typical wrist shape. This watch ships with a reasonably good quality 2-piece nylon strap, but Laco also sent me 2 of their grey camo leather straps that I have now fallen in love with. I spent most of my time wearing this watch on the blue stitch grey camo strap. The quality of these straps is good, but the colors are awesome, and the blue stitching looks great against the dial. This has been a somewhat lengthy review, so I'll wrap it up quickly. This watch is perfect for someone who wants an almost authentic Flieger experience, but also wants a bit of color, luxury, and elegance. After wearing this watch for about 10 days, I've let go of my pre-existing belief that Flieger watches lack individuality. My opinion might be slightly biased since I did experience a relatively more conspicuous dial color, but I think after this experience, I'd be happy to own a regular matte black dial Flieger too. There's much to be admired and appreciated about these watches that goes beyond the outwardly appearance. I think this just might be the perfect combination of vintage Flieger design and heritage and modern trends and preferences. The build quality and finishing is excellent all across the watch, and Laco seems to be doing all the right things with their quality control. In terms of overall presentation, this watch ships with an excellent leather hard case, a small manual, and a warranty card. At the roughly $1,200 price tag, this watch might be out of budget for some folks, but worry not, there's a blue little something for everybody. My next review will be of the $400 Augsburg Blaue Stunde 39, which has a lot more in common with this watch than you would think. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to read the full review in the link below. Feel free to leave your opinions in the comments.